in there, is it a smaller one?
I don't know right now about that.
Okay, guys, we have like 4 minutes. I just want to make sure that I cater my presentation to the audience. So I want to know your knowledge and expertise here. How many of you are brand new, totally like, I kill house plants? Raise your hand. Okay, got about a third. Okay, how many of you have done gardening, but this whole natural gardening is different for you? That's most people. Good. And how many of you are experts? You're just here if you can glean a wee bit of info. Nice, nice. Okay, super. Good stuff. Okay. So hopefully I can give you something. What do you guys think?
Right now, I'm running a center, but I graduated from East Cape Silver Culture.
Okay. So kind of get into those yeah.
Hello. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the library and welcome to our viewers watching over live stream as well. Before we get started, I want to point out the feedback forms on your chairs. If you could take some time before you leave today to share your feedback on our programs, that would help us plan future events. I also want to let you know about some upcoming gardening related events at the library. On Saturday, September 13th, you can drop in for a plant swap anytime between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. Also on Saturday, September 13th, Master Naturalist Tarsha Shepard will be here at 2 p.m. to share her tips for growing a kitchen garden. And with that, I'm delighted to introduce Claudia Vilato. For the past 10 years, Claudia has been working with plants and learning how to create beautiful, functional gardens. As a former teacher and current realtor, she founded Wild Integrated Landscape Design. to combine her love for education and home design. Please help me welcome Claudia Vilato.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. Okay, well, let's get started. Let's start, first of all, with an exercise. We're not going to have a whole lot of time to really go into it, but I start with this exercise so that you can go back to it when you go home. How do you want to feel when you are outside on your property? Think about it, write it down, because so many of us think of our homes as just the walls, what's inside the walls, right? So I want you to reimagine your home as the full boundaries of your property, and maybe a little bit more. How do you want to feel when you're in your front yard, in your backyard, on your porches, walking through different parts outside? How do you want others to feel when they are outside? And finally, what experiences and memories do you want to have when and if you move, or when you look back at your times in your house? What do you want to remember? So this is a very different approach to how most of us think about garden design, right? But good design starts with a feeling. The appearance comes later. First, it's about cultivating that feeling. So keep that in mind as we are talking about all this, because this is going to be very personal to you. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It has nothing to do with your neighbors and what they like and whether they're going to compliment you or criticize you or call the city on you. Yes. Nothing to do. It's about how you want to feel and how you want others to feel. Now, in my other job, I am a realtor, and when I go to a house like this, let's say somebody wants me to list their house, I see this house and I think, okay, if the price is in line, I know that I can sell this house because it's safe. There is nothing about this house that is scaring anybody off. It's not going to fall in on you, right? It's tidy. The people who have lived here have taken care of this house, and that's really all we're looking for, right? But there's one problem that I see for me, and I don't know if this is true of you guys. It might not be. When I see this, I have absolutely no desire to hang out in this outdoor space. None. There's nothing for me to see. There's nothing for me to touch. I don't want to sit. I don't want to hang out here. This is unpleasant. This is like a corridor, right? And so what if we thought about our yards as not just places to pass through and look respectable, but if we thought of them as places we wanted to actually hang out in? When a lot of people think about natural gardening, they think about this. And that is not what I'm saying you should do. And in fact, I know. And in fact, a lot of people, when they first start off and they hear about the pollinators, it's a funny thing, and you might have done it yourself. They're like, I know, I'll just let my grass grow. I'll just see what happens. Woo! And then you get this, which is essentially a whole lot of invasives and woody plants that shouldn't be there at all. So this is not the answer either. What if we do something in between where we have something that is managed but not meticulously kept up, where there's a loose design but it's not rigid? So I have found that I have a lot of joy creating natural gardens where, you have a seasonal emphasis, you have flowers, you have clean lines that divide one section from another, and you have large swaths of color and pattern. That's really what we want to go for. It's that happy medium between like uptight, rigid shrubs and just seeing what happens, which are almost always bad things. So natural gardens They can be all different heights, and yes, you can have some shorter plants. You can plant for wet areas or dry areas and for color. And in general, what we're talking about here is having a seasonal focus. We have often, especially, well, it doesn't have to be sun necessarily, we have a matrix of a plant, a background plant, that is going to act as the mulch, right? So instead of putting on that wood mulch every year, like that traditional garden in the beginning, the plants are the mulch. So you've got these intentional grass matrices that just cover, and you've got pops of seasonal perennial color. Most of the time it's herbaceous, and we'll be talking mostly about herbaceous plants today. And here's the last bit, which is really different, and it's taken from a great garden designer, Pete Udolph, who I'm sure some of you have heard of. You appreciate the beauty in death. And that's a really uncomfortable concept for people to embrace. But when a plant goes dormant, what does that look like? Do we quickly get rid of it and hide it? Or do we leave it up? Do we let it have its moment as a full cycle? So why do I advocate for this kind of planting? Well, first of all, it's a lot less work. I weed a few times a year, and I like to be outside just because I like to see the little critters, and I like to see what's popping up, you know. But it's not a chore, right? I'm out there to see what's visiting. I think it's more beautiful. Of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but in today's world where we've got, like, I don't know, everything is so angular and minimalist, it's nice to have something a little looser just to counterbalance. It is less expensive over time, a lot less expensive, and most importantly, you get to see a lot of life, and it really brings out the child in you. So let me just show you a few scenes from my little quarter acre, and that's all I have, is a quarter acre. Yes, I have deer, and I am inevitably going to get this. And by the way, guys, if you have a question, please interrupt me and ask the question, because I don't want to just talk at you the whole time. Do not feel bad. You must interrupt me. Okay, so yes, I have deer. And at first, I would kind of be like, you know, and in general, I plant things that they're supposed to not like, which the deer in Fayetteville are very, very adventurous culinarily. So you know, that's not always true. But I have found that if you plant enough, there's some for you, there's some for me. You know, it works out. So we've got all kinds of butterflies. We've got little itty bitty baby monarch on that common milkweed. We've got tiger swallowtails, bumblebees. I'm going to advocate for mostly native, but not exclusively, because I think sometimes people get a little bit religious about native instead of considering the value, the wildlife value. So for example, over here on the right, you've got bronze fennel. It's not native, but it's a host plant for swallowtails, and they are just covering all of the fennel right now. So I highly recommend you incorporate it. It's not harmful, and it's really beautiful, and it's great for cut flowers too. And so we've got all kinds of activity happening on the plants, and that's what I really enjoy, and on my structures as well. Little, I think, spider nursery, and of course those little babies up there, hawks naturally, and all kinds of things. Okay, so I think a lot of times, and this is how I started, and maybe you identify here. A lot of times we want, you know, we see pictures, and we see a picture, one of my favorite pictures. Oh my God, I love the lavender fields of Provence. You know, they are just so beautiful. Why don't I do that in my yard? And so I did. You know, I bought lavender, and I composted, I mulched, I did everything, and the lavender looked so good first year. It looked even better second year. I was like, I am in Provence. Hello. Third year, it didn't look so good. And I was like, Fourth year, it was done. And so this is not to say that you should not plant lavender. By all means, if you have lavender fields like Provence in your yard, you have won. You have won. But I have found that it's probably best not to fight reality. This is Arkansas, guys, and let me tell you, that is actually a good thing. Each place has its own unique thing. I did the same thing. I went to Denver. It's like, I don't know, 7 years ago, I went to Denver, saw the Denver Botanical Gardens. They had this little alpine yarrow that I loved so much. It was so cute. I bought the alpine yarrow, and it was the same kind of thing. It lasts a few years, and then it's just not happy because, we just don't have the same climate. So you have to embrace the reality of our climate. And the reality is we have 4 seasons. We don't always have a lot of snow, though these past few years have been a lot snowier. Very hot, humid summers with inevitably a long period of drought. And last year, that period of drought was, I believe, in July. This year, it's now. We have not had rain. We're not going to have rain. It's 90, It's not pleasant. A lot of clay soil, a lot of acidic soil, but all of this is good because there are plants that are uniquely adapted to exactly these types of conditions that will not just survive, but thrive. And that's really what you want to see, is a garden that's thriving on its own, by itself. How do you do this? You have to put the right plant in the right place. And you start by studying your site. So almost all the time, again, this is another way that people want to fight reality. They're like, okay, well, I love this plant at the nursery. It's so, so beautiful. I'm going to take it home and see how it does. But that's a full sun plant, and you have full shade. It's not going to do well. It's the laws of nature will not change for you because you want them to. So you have to be brutally honest with your site. And this August is the best time to evaluate because right now your garden is at its shadiest, it's at its driest, and it's at its fullest. So this is the ideal time to take stock of what you have going on in your garden. Where do you need to fill? Where do you need more height? Where do you need less height? Where do you need to just remove things altogether, right? So you take stock of that. Once you kind of have a broad view, you really have to be brutally honest about how much sun something gets at different times of year and how much water, not with you watering, naturally, how much water does it hold? Because some places are, say, downslope, that's going to receive a lot more water than something that's up high on like a hill, right? And so you can start to see that. And how much sun does it get? Is it dappled sun? Well, that's a part sun kind of plant, right? It's not really strong sun. It's not full shade. Is it full shade? Is it just a real dry area? There's a plant for every single site, right? So you just need to first identify the site and not try to fudge that to fit the plant that you want. Start with the site first. I generally suggest err on the side of more shade and more drought than you think. Okay, we're gonna briefly go over some layers, but we're not gonna emphasize this. I just wanna go over this so that you can really think about how much you're not doing that you could be doing. A lot of times when we move into a house, say it's a new construction house, the builder has set up some little bed out front. He's put some landscape fabric down, put a few shrubs in, some mulch, edging, done. No, guys, this is you're missing out on so much potential. There are a lot of layers, and this isn't an exact, scientific definition of all the layers, particularly when I go down, but ways of thinking about your grounds, okay? At the top of the hierarchy, we've got our canopy, right? Those are mature trees. And some common trees, white oak, sycamore, hickory, white pine. We don't have many evergreens, but white pine is one of them, right? So that's your big, tall shade tree. After that, you've got your understory trees that can handle some shade, such as dogwood, redbud, ironwood or hop hornbeam, and pawpaw. All of these like shade. Then you've got shrubs. Shrubs are basically like trees that only get to 15 feet or lower. They are woody. So we're going to really distinguish here the difference between woody plants and herbaceous plants. So all of these are woody plants. So shrubs are like oak leaf hydrangea, spicebush, viburnum, aromatic sumac, and blueberry. These are all really beautiful structural shrubs. And then we get to the part where we're going to focus on a little bit more. Forbs, where we've got grasses, perennial flowers that die down to the ground every year. That's what we're going to focus most for creating the natural garden, is on forbs. Ground cover is also a very big part of the natural garden. These are low, they spread, and they form your green mulch. Carex, wild ginger, wild violets. I've seen people who get rid of all their wild violets. Wild violet is a great host plant for fritillary butterflies. It's really beautiful. It spreads. It's a nice carpet of purple early on in the spring. I highly recommend it as a ground cover. Annuals like partridge, pea, and gaillardia, some of them, these two in particular, do reseed. But annuals, essentially, they don't die to the ground every year, they die completely. So they're just there for some quick color. And finally, bulbs and ephemerals. So spring beauties and bluebells, they kind of go away in the summertime, but they're still there. And then non-native early blooms are great. I absolutely love incorporating crocuses and daffodils into my garden, especially the very early spring and late winter blooms, because nothing else is blooming, so I don't see it doing any harm personally. So this may seem very overwhelming. I have an easier system for how to determine how to rework your garden. And this is a great book. You must read it. It's gorgeous. I love it. It's called Planting in a Post-Wild World. And in this book, Thomas Rainer goes over 3 natural archetypes. These are easily identifiable kind of garden systems that we see out in nature. And he notes 3: grasslands, shrublands, and forests. So grasslands, think of your meadow. And they're mostly herbaceous. You've got drifts of color, seasonal changes. Think of a French Impressionist painting, right? These kinds of drifts of purples and stuff like that. There's movement in a grassland, right? It moves with the wind. It's not stiff like that picture of that first house. There's often a lot of sky. Usually grasslands are in full sun. So grasslands can be a great inspiration for your garden if you're looking to do something a little bit interesting. Shrublands. Most people, what they have in their suburban garden is some form of shrubland. And in nature, think of like the Mediterranean or chaparrals, where you have these discrete, really identifiable structures coming out of the ground. So often you'll see a mix of a few scattered trees, but there isn't really a full canopy. There are, as you might imagine, shrubs, and there are also herbaceous plants that die down to the ground. The feel is characterized by contrast and variability. You've got opening and closing, think pathways, secret and exposed, so there's a lot of change. Most of us will probably have a shrubland in our yard. And finally, forests. Now, this is beautiful. You may have a forest in your backyard. It may be almost all canopy, and that's great. So forests have a lot of shade. There's a lot of mystery. You have those tall trees. There's a sense of grandeur. And usually what you'll have is a few scattered understory trees, maybe a few shrubs, but mostly on the ground, you're going to have a low ground cover, lots of ephemerals and ground cover blanketing the ground, because the trees are really what the highlight of the garden. So take these archetypes as a way of, you don't have to be rigid about it, but as a way of thinking about your unique yard. What are you, given what you have, what are you going to lean into, right? So we're going to focus on non-woody species today. Those that die down to the ground every winter, those that are perennial, they come back every year or they reseed. Those that multiply, so they might not be your traditional super well-behaved garden that you control. No, you're letting nature let go a little bit, okay? You can mow the whole garden down in the winter if you choose, so it's really easy to just kind of clean it up. You leave the debris in place. That serves as real mulch instead of buying wood mulch. Wood mulch tends to be heavy, and by all means, you should start with wood mulch in a new bed, but after, you're probably not going to want to use it because the wood mulch can be heavy and can tamp down the seeds that you want to be reseeding for the next year. So leaves tend to be much better mulch for your setting. You should not use fertilizer or soil amendments with the plants that we'll talk about. You should not be buying store-bought mulch every year, and instead of doing that, you're really going to emphasize green mulch as your ground cover. A lot of plants are low growing and can sit in between other plants, or they start off with basal foliage, which is very low plant, very low leaves, and then they grow as the year goes on. Questions so far? Okay, so let's start. Let's say that you've got I want to make a bed. All right, we'll go into which kind of bed we're going to do. Let's just start with some general rules of thumb. You will probably want to do some traditional wood mulch upon installation, just to get things going, just to have a start. It's also a really good way of identifying the plants in your bed, right? You've got this kind of black, background. You're going to want to think about what your matrix plant is going to be. And I want you to plant much closer than the tag suggests. So almost always the tag gives way too much room, but that's not how plants work in nature. If you observe nature, plants are intermingling and mixing. They actually like that. They like to mix their roots. So you're going to plant tight, about 1 plant per square foot generally for herbaceous plants. The key to doing a natural garden that doesn't look like a mess is your edges. You've got to be really religious about your edges. Edge that out, make sure that you've got a clear border and boundary so that it looks deliberate. That's what's going to not confuse people, right? Have clean edges. You want to think about, you're going to, of course, water very deeply upon installation, and a lot more water than you think. You're going to establish some form of irrigation. So yes, you could technically just let things go and see if it grows without any irrigation, and it might. I like to have something, even if it's just once a week, some kind of irrigation. In the first 2 years, I want to kind of get some expectations. This is a long-term, low-maintenance plan. But in the first few years, you are babying your garden, okay? Don't think that you're just going to plant it, give it a sprinkle, and done, right? No. Think of your garden, regardless of whether it's a natural garden or a traditional garden, that garden bed, think of it as a newborn, right? You don't just have a newborn and say, woo! No, you have to watch the newborn. You have to take care of the newborn. You're going to be doing a lot more weeding, watering, observing than you'll do when that child is a teenager, right? So your first year, newborn. Second year, teenager. They're going to need a little bit of intervention, but not quite as intensively. Third year, adult. Just regular maintenance, weeding 4 times a year. When you are designing your garden, you want to think in terms of buying a lot of plants. So a lot of times what people will do is they'll be unsure, and they'll go to the nursery and they'll buy 2 plants. They'll be like, yes, let's see how these go. But that's not a landscape, right? You've got to go big. So be bold. Get 5 or 7 of the same plant. Just do it. If they all die, they all died, okay? Don't just buy 1 or 2 plants. That's not going to create a design. Go big. When you're designing your garden, you also want to think about contrast, not just in terms of color and height, but in terms of foliage. So you might want to put something that's grassy next to something that's more like a rounded shape, right? So that it looks deliberate. So you think of contrast adjacently. And usually, at least to start, you want to start off with lower herbaceous perennials, 4 feet and under. You can definitely go bigger, especially if you have more space, but it might feel a little overwhelming if you start with your 8-footers. So generally, keep it a little lower. All right, so now let's think about this. Raise your hand. So we're trying to determine here 2 different paths. Are you adding to an existing bed, or are you creating a new one? Let's have a show of hands. Raise your hand if you want to add to an existing bed. You have a bed, you just want to change it up. Raise your hand high. Okay, thank you. Raise your hand if you are going to start from scratch, create a new bed. Wow. Let's start there. Okay. Luckily, August is also a great time to kill grass. So, there are a few ways you can do this. The easiest and safest is to solarize. Here's what I suggest. Go to Home Depot or Lowe's. Get black painter's tarp. It is plastic. It is ugly. You're going to do it. And you're just going to lay it out and put rocks, just to hold it in place. You're going to leave it for 2 months. You are killing everything. Then, in October, mid-October, you finally lift the tarp. You can do a few things. You can kind of dig out the remaining stuff. It really helps if you take out all the roots from the grass. I've heard different things of like, oh, don't touch it at all, just tamp it down with lots of mulch and cardboard. We have Bermuda grass here in a lot of yards, and it will win. If you do not get the root out, it will win. So you really have to completely dig it out. Since you've been killing the top layer, it should be easier, so you dig it all out completely. Since it's going to be fall, by the time you do this, it's like mid-October. That's when you can do something that has worked really well for me, the lasagna method. And so you dig it all out, and then you essentially, it doesn't matter how you start. You get cardboard, and then you get fallen leaves, right? They've all fallen, right? Get a layer, and then more cardboard, and then more fallen leaves. And you have smothered essentially everything that you want. And then on top of that, you put your black or your wood mulch on top of that, nice thick layer. You create your edge, you have your bed and you can leave your bed ready for spring, or you can plant into it if you're gonna water a lot, because planting in the fall is good only if you are willing to water every day until frost. We generally have very dry fall. So if you don't want to work as hard, you can just create your bed now. Come spring, plant in April, and you're good. Okay. But if you have a bed and it's a little empty, maybe you thought about that chart that I have of all the different layers of the garden. And you're like, wow, I just have 3 shrubs. Yes, you need to fill it. So the first thing that I always recommend, and this is hard work and it's annoying, is rip out that landscape fabric. Almost every landscaper uses landscape fabric, and I think the idea is that it's supposed to prevent weeds, but it's not the reality, because weed seeds blow in and simply grow on top of the mulch. So it's just a silly trick that landscapers do for the first year. It's not a good long-term solution. I also hate landscaping fabric because usually people have dug, holes, and they put a shrub in with all the landscape fabric, and then what that does, it actually prevents that shrub from growing. And so I highly recommend you completely rip it out and give your existing plants some actual space to grow and move. From there, you can fill it in with different kinds of ground cover. So these are generally low-growing plants that are okay with shade. Wild ginger takes a long time for it to spread, but it will spread, and it's really pretty. Carex pennsylvanica, which is Pennsylvania sedge. Really hard to find because it's so high in demand. A lot of sedges will work really well. Wild violets, you can just get these from your lawn. So take them from your lawn and move them to your bed and let them spread. Stone crop, which is like sedum, and actually you can get this at Home Depot or Lowe's. You can get like a tray of it and just throw it and scatter it and it'll root. Yes?
My sedum has an empty hole in the middle after like the second or third year, I can't remember.
What kind of sedum do you have?
Don't remember.
Is it a low growing one or is it autumn joy?
Low.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's okay. So she asked, her sedum has a hole after several years growing in the middle. No big deal. So with sedum, you can really just break off pieces of it and give it more space so that it can reform a carpet.
Maybe I didn't express it clearly enough. It started out to be a little mound, and then it started to grow away from the center. So it's now just a ring. Doesn't look great with little stems in the middle.
Huh. I'll have to see a picture of it. I still suspect that you can give it a nice haircut and give it a fresh start, but I'd have to see. Yeah, sedum is a really, I have found it's a really good, just ground cover, just kind of.
Yeah, that's what my expectation was.
Yeah.
Beautiful flowers. It's flowering on the outer ring, but
I think she can just plant another sedum in that center.
That's another possibility.
What's happened is the older plant dies off. It happens with grasses
Yeah.
also. And you either dig the whole thing up and divide it, or you can just plant back in the center.
Yeah, don't overthink it.
Feeding.
Don't overthink it, just play around with it and see if you can fill it in. You've got a question too.
I don't know how the response is going to be to this, but I have a lot of native Tridescantia spiderwort.
Mm-hmm.
I have a forest type. I live basically right across the creek from here, really close to the lower Ramble, so it's low, it's very shady. And I have a whole lot of spiderwort. It pops up, around mid-April, early May. It lasts for about 6, maybe 8 weeks. Pollinators love it. I love the flowers. It's really beautiful.
And then it's a mushy mess.
And then it just dies and
Yeah.
there's nothing. And I don't
Right.
want to replace it because I love it. But like, is there something that maybe will pop up after it dies
Yes.
out to kind of like balance it?
Absolutely. So her question is, she's got this great spring bloomer. It's called spiderwort, and it looks really pretty until it doesn't. And then it looks really bad. It does. So you need something else. Don't take it out, just add more. I highly recommend white wood aster. Definitely. Yes, that's a good one. Because the foliage itself will hide the ugly, and then it'll bloom really pretty in September. Yeah. Okay, more questions? So fill up your existing bed. Remove your landscape fabric, fill up your existing bed with something low, like these different plants that I have suggested here. Think about your garden beds from a rabbit's eye view. So every single nook and cranny can be full of something. So we tend to landscape with a lot of space in between plants. You don't have to do that at all. It's much easier to manage a system that's completely covered because it holds the moisture. And so choke out any weeds. So a lot of people ask, oh, what do I do about weeds? Weeds will always happen. They will always exist. But you will have fewer weeds if you have competition for them, if you have a plant to take their place. That's really the secret. It's not mulch. It's not dirt. It's not preen. Preen can be good, but it kills off, preen doesn't kill off. It prevents seeds from germinating, including seeds that you want. So, plant really full and plant from a rabbit's eye view. When you're creating a bed, you want to think in a pattern, right? You want to create a pattern for the eye. And so a pattern is formed once you have three or more, right? Suddenly we see a pattern. It's deliberate. And so you want to repeat an element in some form, probably at least 3 times. And in that element, you probably, like I said, you don't just want one plant, you want like 5 or 7 of that plant. So you're forming clumps of color, seasonal color, at different times. The last rule of thumb when you're creating a bed is that relax a little bit. It's not about perfection. There will be plants that come in that you did not plant. They will come. You don't necessarily have to remove them. Wait and see. In fact, the whitewood aster that I suggest, I never planted it. I just let it happen. And I wanted to see what it would look like. And it turns out it's spectacular. And the bees cover it. It's awesome. So easy. I have to do nothing to it. I give it a haircut like at some point in the summer just to control for height. But I don't have to.
Whitewood asters, do they normally grow pretty tall and then
They can.
Okay, I already have some of those in my
Yeah, you just move
You
it.
just have to and trim it down to keep it lower.
Yep. Yep. So, yes. Okay. Yes.
Do you have some suggestions of a shade?
Yeah.
Sorry, for a more of a sunny environment, because most of your things do
Definitely.
for shade.
So actually, let me see. We still have time. We're going to do an activity that will get into those specifics. Give me 5 minutes. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go back a little bit. We'll get into particular plants in a bit. When you're establishing your garden, let's say you have just planted your natural bed, you've got a ton of plants, you've really loaded it up. Every square foot has plants. It's got tons of little babies. What do you do next? This is where a lot of people, they say, oh, I have a black thumb. It's like, no, you don't. You just did not water enough. That baby garden that you have just planted, it is very stressed out. It is like when a baby comes out of the womb, it's really unhappy. It's the same thing. You have just moved these little babies and put them in a new spot. They're not happy. You need to water them a lot, like a long time. Like put on a podcast and sit there with the water, okay? I suggest 15 minutes of just straight watering that bed on day one, you know, if the weather isn't super hot. If it is super hot, 30 minutes, okay? Next day, you do a little bit less. Next day, just a little bit less. Eventually, it's every other day, and then 2 times a week. And then if there's no rain for a whole week, then you water once a week. Yes? Either one. You probably just don't want to do, and thank you for bringing that up. So it's very tempting to water an established garden every day when it's really, really hot. But don't do that. So this is just something that you want to do when you're first establishing a garden, right? You want to water very frequently and a lot. Once it's established, you want to really taper off and do more infrequent waterings, but for a long time. Because the idea is that's going to force the plant to root down instead of out. So it'll become a lot more resilient if it's rooting down. It's searching for that water here, not up on the surface. It'll be stronger. But that's for later. It doesn't matter if it's morning or evening. It's tempting to water when a plant is wilting in the middle of the day, and almost all herbaceous plants will be unhappy right now in like midday. They're gonna wilt a little bit. That's okay. It's not dying. As long as it perks up again in the evening and it's happy in the morning, it's okay. So it's putting on a show. It's being dramatic. It's like, it's so hot. I'm so hot. But it's not dying. Just like people, guys. Just like people. Okay. Okay. Now, let's have some fun. Take out your phones. I am going to recommend, I have no affiliation to this website or nursery, but I recommend this because they have the best user interface. And so as you're learning about plants, I suggest you just play on this website. It's called Prairie Moon Nursery. Prairie Moon Nursery. And I like it because you can filter for Arkansas, you can filter for sun, shade, height, bloom color, insect, all kinds of things. So it's a really sophisticated website, much better than a lot of the other websites. So we're gonna play a game, and you can do this by yourself or in groups. Okay. Let's take this scenario. Look at this yard. So mom is really unhappy because she bought this awesome play set for her kid, and her kid never wants to play outside. She has taken away the iPad, and it's still, he doesn't want to play outside. How are you gonna get the kid to play outside? Design a garden to make this an inviting space for children. Consider what children like and find curious, right? They like to see critters just like adults do. They like birds and butterflies, and maybe they like or not like bees, but it adds some fun to their life, okay? She also wants to have more parties, and she just really can't, like, she's just like paralyzed. She can't do it. So let's take a look at this garden. Go onto Prairie Moon Nursery and think about how you would design this garden. I'll give you guys like 5 minutes to play around with some elements that you would add to it, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so let's just talk about some ideas that you have. No right or wrong answer. We're just trying to get the kids out there. What do you think? It needs shade. Oh my God. No child wants to be out here. This is torture. And I have actually had situations where I am showing a house to a family and the mom says, I like this yard. I can see everything. It's like, guess what? Your kid's never going to go out there. You're in here, your kid won't be out there. And it's true. It's true. Kids like shade just like adults. Okay, what else?
Adult spaces, because she needs to be out there too.
Yes, she wants to have parties. It looks like maybe, I don't know what that is, maybe like a grill? And it looks like there's a fan, but I mean, it's just like there's no continuity there. It's like in the middle of nowhere. I'm wondering if maybe there should be like a porch coming off of her house instead of like in the middle of the yard.
A gazebo or something.
Some kind of cover. Yes, yes. What else?
Kind of path.
A path. You can create this, guys. Why does it have to be a square? You can create paths. You can make the whole garden a bunch of different gardens, like pathway through the whole thing. And in fact, children love paths because that's a good hide and seek, situation. Yeah. Yes.
You could like put little play areas for children out there, surrounded by plants.
Play area, yes. You have zones. You can have maybe a sandbox area and then have flowers around that. Or like fairy garden area and have flowers around that. Different little play zones. Variety. Yeah, yeah. What else?
Along that same, I put like different rooms, different outdoor spaces, but also like that fencing, like just psychologically, it just makes you feel
Absolutely.
trapped.
Yep.
And so using taller plantings, shrubs or whatever, to not only hide the fence, but also soften that square
Thank you.
space. So it looks more like an enclosure that's protective and comforting versus a prison yard.
Absolutely. This privacy fence is amazing, said no one ever, right? This is horrendous, guys. They certainly create privacy, but at what cost? Let's soften that. Anything else?
Water feature.
Water! Yay! This is how we get our frogs. Water's also very calming, so maybe like a little fountain. Also, it can be very easy if you have like a pond. You can even buy like they're like these solar water fountains, and it kind of gets the water moving, so it's not even expensive. All right, let me briefly tell you some things that I would do with this space. So first of all, yes, we need some shade. So I would get a deciduous tree, like a red oak, right? That's going to give us shade in the summer, really good color in the fall. I would get some crab apples because crab apples smell really good. The flowers smell really good. The bees love them. You can put a whole bunch of them in a row and it's just going to be covered in bees and smell amazing when you walk through. I would probably get some evergreens like American holly. And generally, guys, when you are looking at the cardinal directions, you want to think about putting your tallest stuff on on the northern part of your property, and then because that's how you're going to get sun to those plants. So on the north side, I'd put some American holly, maybe some deciduous early blooming shrubs in between, like witch hazel. It blooms in February, so that's cool. I would probably put some lower shrubs underneath those hollies and witch hazels. I would probably put some New Jersey tea and some lead plant in front of them, and those are host plants to azures, dusky wings, and sulfurs. Host plants are, of course, plants where the butterfly or moth will lay the egg on that plant and the larva will eat the leaves of that plant. So host plants are really, really important to have in a garden if you want that life, right? So let's just kind of see. I would probably put some American holly, some shrubs back here, you know, and you can also weave, right? Like it doesn't have to be a straight line. You can make a curve and have your shrubs in front. We've already right there, we've got a lot of life happening because the American holly has berries, and so you've got birds visiting that. You've got bees early in the winter visiting the witch hazel. You've got of course, the little caterpillars on your New Jersey tea and your lead plant. Those are low shrubs that are about 3 feet tall. Then I'd probably have a pathway, and in between that pathway, I would probably put some grasses, maybe switchgrass or little blue stem. Those are really pretty. They're upright grasses, and they're host plant to skippers, which are another kind of butterfly. I would probably want to interplant some plants that have good seed heads because I love finches. They're really cute, and so they really like those seed heads. They perch on them. So for example, Echinacea pallida, or pale cone flowers, a very beautiful seed head, very beautiful flower that is perennial and lasts a month. Goldenrod, there are many different kinds of goldenrod, and goldenrod is not the same as ragweed. Goldenrod is really great, and there are some that even have that honey smell. It smells really good. Mountain mint is another wonderful plant visited by lots of pollinators, and it looks good in the winter. And different rudbeckias, or black-eyed Susan and brown-eyed Susan. You've got lots of different colors there with all of these plants that offer seed heads. And I would probably dot in some low plants like orange milkweed. That's, of course, the host plant for the monarch. Pussy toes, which are real small, and they're a host plant for the American painted lady, and wild violets as well. If I need more ground cover, I can use some sedges in between all of these, and that's a host plant for skippers. I also really like incorporating vines, so I might have, a kind of moon arch or something and have a trumpet vine growing on that, and the hummingbirds really like the flowers of trumpet vine. I'd have maybe a bird bath on the ground for those little guys, a toad home, and maybe even a trough to encourage dragonflies and frogs. So you've got a lot going on in all this. And this is a sun bed of average moisture. And you've got everything, the canopy all the way down to the forbs. That's an idea. It doesn't have to be like this. There's so many possibilities. But play around on Prairie Moon for more ideas for what you like. Briefly, let me see. If we have time, we'll look at the shade. We'll look at this shade side. I want to, because we only have 4 more minutes, I want to talk about maintenance of your garden. So, like I said, upon initial planting, you really have to be very, very diligent with watering and with weeding. You just have to. You've got to go really dedicated. I like to weed every time after it rains because it's very easy to pull everything. Over the course of a year, in the wintertime, at some point, you'll want to cut your forbs down to the ground, and you can just mow it, or you can machete it, or you can cut it. You cut it down to the ground, and you can leave the debris in place because that is going to serve as the best mulch, the most natural mulch for your garden. At some point in mid-April, you're going to start to actually clean up the bed. It takes a while for our plants to really come up. So mid-April, you remove some of that debris and remove whatever weeds you've got. That's going to be your biggest weeding session, is that initial weeding session. If you want to incorporate annuals, and we haven't talked about annuals too much, but even non-native annuals like zinnias and cosmos, they're very easy to grow from seed. So I did have somebody ask, oh, what do I do about seeds? I don't recommend you start your garden with seeds. Seeds should be supplementary, not primary. I recommend you get actual plants and make sure that that you get your plants established. Any other seeds that you may want to put in, that's extra. They may come up, they may not, but you're not relying on the seeds. So in the spring, sprinkle some seeds before a rain, and then they'll kind of tamp down. And if you have forbs that are tall, you can give them 2 haircuts. The Chelsea chop, which is the one that kind of coincides with the Chelsea Garden Show, but I just kind of give it a hard cut Memorial Weekend, and then 4th of July weekend you can cut in half, and that's it. You just enjoy the garden. That's just your general maintenance for your natural garden. Yes, question back there.
Is this the first year or?
Every year. So once, obviously once you have an established bed. So you're not gonna just mow down forbs that aren't there if all you have is like mulch bed. Yeah. Yes?
Before you move on, can you go back to the shade slide just long enough to take a picture of it?
Yeah. So if you have a shade bed with average moisture and you want to hide something ugly like that, air conditioning, you can get some big shrubs. Bottle brush buckeye is great. Oak leaf hydrangea is awesome. Beautiful plants. Northern sea oats look gorgeous in the winter. Tall bellflower and Culver's root can handle some shade. Even brown-eyed Susans can handle some shade, and that gives you some color. And if you want some early color, columbine and Jacob's ladder offer really good color. For late color, wood aster and zigzag goldenrod. You can do some wild violets again or some Pennsylvania sedge. You can even have a garden arch with some Virginia creeper, which is also a host plant and looks beautiful in the fall. Okay, real quick, some native annuals. Partridge pea, Gaillardia, cleome, I'm not sure if it's native to our area, but it's native to the United States. Jewelweed, I love jewelweed so much. It's really hard to grow from seed, but if it's growing, it likes it wet and shady. And fleabane, a lot of people hate fleabane. I actually really like it. These are just real easy to grow, or if they're popping up, you can leave them. Native bulb, wild hyacinth is so pretty. And then some non-native annual seeds and bulbs. Bachelor buttons, nigella, marigold, cosmos, sunflower, clover. I like American meadows because you can, and with seeds, don't buy the little packets. Get at least, several ounces. Go big, again. Go big, it's worth it. Okay. How much time? We don't have any more time. So I will be up here. 2 things. I have free plants for you. So I'm gonna show you some of that, and then also I'll be up here to answer any and all questions. So let me head on back there to give you some free plants. Guys, thank you for coming. I'm so grateful. I hope I didn't drive you crazy.